Good afternoon, students. Today we will see about tricuspid regurgitation. It is a one kind of valvular heart disease, and we have to see the assessment and clinical part in today's lecture. So first of all, we see the tricuspid valve. The word itself is having a three cusp or three leaves, and according to that, it is made up of valve and which is located anatomically between the right atrium and right ventricle or over the right side of the heart. So in case of whenever the blood is coming from the peripheral circulation into right atrium via superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, and from where when it is going for systole, the blood is ejected from right atrium to the right ventricle via this tricuspid valve. Now, the regurgitation itself there is a partial closure or there is a no complete closure of this tricuspid valve, and after blood reaching from right atrium to right ventricle, from there it is pushed into the pulmonary circulation. But whenever in case of a this tricuspid valve regurgitation, this right ventricle is getting pump of the blood is going in pulmonary artery as well as in the right side of atrium because of improper closure of tricuspid valve, or there is a backflow of blood in the right atrium. This condition is known as tricuspid regurgitations. Now we will see in detail that how it is affecting and what are the causes and effect of the same. So we are seeing for the tricuspid regurgitation causes. So any causes which are affecting the right ventricular dilatation, that is mitral valve disease, congenital heart disease, or right ventricular dysfunction, ataxia, are directly affecting the right ventricle and which leads to have effect on the tricuspid valve regurgitations. Other causes which include endocarditis, rheumatic fever, and Marfan syndrome. These are the major causes which are causing the tricuspid regurgitation in right side of the heart. So there are basically divided the pathophysiology in a three part. Okay, so in the first phase there will be initial right ventricular dilatation result in tricuspid annulation, dilatation is happening, and after that it is progressed to the right ventricle and tricuspid annulus dilatation result in lack of leaflet coadaptation, and ultimately which leads to development of progression of right ventricular distortion resulting in throttling of leaflets and pulmonary hypertension. So this is how the phase 1 to phase 3 the disease is getting spread, or this is getting progress in the severity of the phases. So depend on the different severities we have a clinical manifestations of the patient. So usually when the patient is develop such kind of disease, patient will start have a effect on the heart failure, and patient will also develop the certain amount of ascites, edema, nausea, anorexia, and abdominal pain. On examination part, along with the certain clinical manifestations, we will see about certain other features which include the wasting of overall body and jaundice, overall edema, flutter is common, and there will be elevated JVP, that is jugular venous pressure, then tender pulsate hepatomegaly, that you will be able to feel the hepat or tenderness will be present, or liver will be easily palpable in the abdomen. Then on auscultation we will found the S3 sound, and there will be increase in the expiration of this sound. And along with the history and physical examination, we further progress for certain amount of investigating procedures, which include are as follows. First of all, we'll go ECG. So in the initial of the case, there will be no much changes in the ECG, but in case of moderate or severe cases, the ECG will reveal about the underlying pathology in the ECG waveforms. On the chest X-ray, we will be able to see the clear cardiomegaly with the patient have a functional tricuspid regurgitation, and development of pleural effusion will be noted. On echocardiogram, in the color Doppler, there will be confirmed diagnosis of the regurgitations in the tricuspid valve. This is how the different investigation procedure will lead to conclusion for diagnosis of tricuspid regurgitation. You see, now if you see about a treatment part of a clinical part, so we'll basically divide them in a two parts, as a clinical part as well as in a this surgical part. So in the absence of pulmonary hypertension along with the tricuspid regurgitation, it is well tolerated and may not require well treatment or specific treatment for that particular TR. But when the disease has progressed to the phase 2 and phase 3 and you start developing pulmonary hypertension along with pulmonary congestion or edema, then you require a treatment with the diuretics, fluid and salt restriction, and along with the antibiotics to control the bacterial infection causes over the right side of the ventricle. Then mostly this tricuspid regurgitation is secondary to any kind of pathology of valve, which required in majority of the cases only a surgical replacement. Very rare it is affecting or controlled by the antibiotic therapies and other oral agents. So leads to oral treatment. After that, where the physiotherapy role has come in both either the medical conditions or as well as in post-surgical condition. But most of the time in pre-surgical condition, patients come rarely, and if it has been referred for the same, then we have to control for the generalized edema and certain amount of abdominal pain and controlling over the normal breathing pattern on the S1 S3, which is abnormally affected over the expiration, that has to be controlled in a non-surgical cases. And that how we will manage, that we'll see. In non-operative or non-surgical TR that we have to deal with, for the edema management we can go for an FUP, that is Faradism under pressure, along with the IPC with the ages of 10 to 30 degree of hip flexion or from 6 to 12 or 15 inch of height, and IPC is given for the circulation mode as well as massage mode to reduce the generalized edema, especially in the lower limb, and same for the upper limb. Then for the control of the breathing issues, we have to go for a semi-flawless position, and deep breathing exercise should be emphasized, and patient should be counseled well manner so that patient can easily cooperate with breathing issues whenever he has to adapt the same breathing exercise in a different posture like sitting, standing, walking, lying on the side. So it will help in daily ADL activities to control the respiratory problems. In case of a surgical approach, the patient will be referred post-surgically, then obviously that will go for a normal kind of post-surgical cardiac rehabilitation protocol, which includes from day 1 to day 7 in ward and ICU, and after the 7 days to 3 months it will be going for an IPD setups for phase 2 and phase 2 cardiac rehab. And for the prolonged and constant rehab, it may go up to 12 months of complete cardiac rehabilitation to improve his overall cardiac endurance and generalized aerobic capacity to along with the newly replaced valve and managing his flow and maintaining all the vitals during his physical needs.